Well, yesterday we unexpectedly decided to take the day off, and that was a terrible decision because right as I got home and thought, all right, you know what, let's get ready. We have a lot coming up. May not be many off days in our future. A crazy bombshell drop. So I have a lot of things to discuss. I'm sure you've already heard about the substance, so I'll fly through that, but then get to over the last few hours since this bombshell took place and broke in the Atlantic, the reactions, the old footage of officials who are caught up in this being uncovered and their hypocrisy. And then today we're going to talk about it's taking place during the day. So sort of as the show goes on, we'll end up covering a hearing that's set to grill these officials about what took place. So again, before showing you this clip of Trump and then so many other things, as you've seen, the Atlantic broke this piece. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. And the long story short is that the war plans for attacks in Yemen, for strikes in Yemen against the Houthis, were just being chatted about. Classified information, war plans, over the Signal messaging service, presumably on people's just private phones that don't have the security of the channels that normally classified information is being communicated on. And you had a Hegseth in this group text. You had Mike Waltz. You had Vice President J.D. Vance and other people as well. And then they accidentally added to the group chat the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic, proving just how flippant they are where you could make such a mistake. Also posting American war planning usually takes place in highly secure facilities, but the Trump administration planned its strikes on the Houthis using a group chat and accidentally included the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. Crimes could have been committed here. Obviously, as we've learned, as Republicans said they really cared about with the whole Hillary email scandal of her talking about government stuff on a private server. Nothing like this, but that was a scandal in right-wing media for years. And now they're doing this, which is so wild. One notable statement that J.D. Vance made as a part of this text chain. I am not sure the president's aware of how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. So Vance was criticizing Trump, which is pretty interesting. But essentially, they have specific texts in this article, which is, again, a bombshell. But he was only going to include stuff to prove that he was in the group text, not classified information. But he says details about the time of a strike and who the strike was on and all that was in it. And then he didn't want to himself commit a crime, as our camera's breaking up there, by actually posting this. But you see the conversation. Again, I know this is covered everywhere, so we don't need to rehash it. But a crazy security breach, and just the fact that they're talking about this in a Signal group chat is crazy. Last thing before playing this clip of Trump being asked about it, to start a series of clips I want to play for you of different reactions and then old footage of these same people saying they're very concerned about Hillary's emails before doing something worse. I once, in college, I was, you know, when you're texting your friends and then you switch over, you're texting your mom and you switch back, you're texting your friends, texting your mom, texting your friend. But I'm trying to do it because I'm in class, write down so it's not up near my face. So texting. And I accidentally send something that was intended for a friend to my mother. And the content of it wasn't the most appropriate. And my mom responded, well, that's awkward, knowing that it wasn't for her. And ever since then, even when I'm just talking about the most benign things, I triple check who is in group text and who I'm messaging, because sometimes it can just be weird. Or have you ever screenshotted something someone texted you and then accidentally sent it back to them when you were meaning to send it to somebody else to talk about it? I am more thoughtful of who I add to group text planning a bachelor party than I am, or than the Trump administration apparently is, with our secrets about who we're going to strike when. Frightening stuff. This is serious, but I can tell you throughout the day we're going to have a lot of fun with it, because that's how we try to handle such events. Here's Trump being asked about it, and the look on his face is iconic. If you appreciate this show, please do click the subscribe button. What a day.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
So the reason that officials go into a SCIF to discuss classified information, like war plans, is because private phones with just an app that you're messaging on, Signal is encrypted. That's kind of their claim to fame, but is not to the security of how normally classified information is transmitted and communicated. And the reason for that is if someone's private phone, as can easily be done in the grand scheme of things, is hacked, you now put American lives in danger or put an operation in danger. But none of this really should surprise us when our Secretary of Defense once did this to himself, which is stepping on a skateboard and it's smacking him in the crotch. Okay, that's not someone you can trust to handle your classified information with the level of tact that is necessary. Hegseth was asked about this, and he had visceral panic.
Looking forward to it. One question.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia.
Look at him jutting his head out, to include the hoaxes of Russia. This is not stable. Here we go.
Who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax.
Oh my gosh. He's like, what's this animal? Does ostrich do this? I don't know.
So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets.
Hey, sir, Mr. Secretary of Defense, former Weekend Fox, Mr. Sir, what are you talking about? Focus. We're not talking about the strike. We're talking about the fact that you linked this strike to a journalist. Can you imagine? So Jeffrey Goldberg, that's his name, right? Jeffrey Goldberg. You accidentally added him to a group chat. Yes, Jeffrey Goldberg. And I don't know how that happens, but I guess he was intending on someone else, maybe with similar initials, Jeffrey Goldbag, I don't know. And imagine if, I heard Pete Buttigieg make this point on one of the shows. Imagine if you had accidentally added one of the people in your phone who's a representative of a different country, of one of our adversaries, because a lot of the people in this group text, I think Mike Walt was the one who actually did this, who actually added Goldberg. If he added one of the many representatives of and agents of foreign countries that he communicates with on a daily basis to this group chat, and now it's even more dangerous. Luckily, it was Jeffrey and not somebody else. But then he says something that's just not true.
Exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning.
Look at the movement. It looks like he's doing an ab workout. These are all hoaxes. Jeffrey is fake news, except those are my texts, but don't worry about that.
Exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it.
Nobody. It's sort of like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Nobody was texting war plans. Sir, here's the text. No. Russia. And then Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, also said this.
What you did see, though, I think, was top-level officials doing their job, doing it well, and executing on a plan with precision. That mission was a success.
Wait, Mike. That's that's the point, Mike, of my son and I notify each other when we watch porn fame. Mike, you don't know about that, Jaden? You've never heard that story. Oh, Jaden's such a newbie to politics. Great stuff. Him and his son, they have a thing that gives them notifications if the other one is watching porn. Just so they can root them on or something. But no, it's so that they can try not to, obviously. But yeah, Mike, the point is we're not supposed to. He says, what I saw in these messages, what I think the American public saw, frankly, in these messages is our classified information and classified war plans being discussed, which proved how precise and how fantastic the strike ended up being. No, but we're not supposed to see that. We're not supposed to see you talking about this. That's our point, Mike. And moving forward from there, I referenced that. Well, a couple things. In response to that clip, Amy McGrath said, "No, Mr. Speaker, the military executed on a plan with precision. The top-level officials put that mission at risk by recklessly chatting about the classified details of it on a phone app, not even knowing who was on the chat, with one of them visiting Moscow at the time." That's the other part. Witkoff, while he was in Russia, he was getting these messages. Who knows how easily it would have been for his phone to be accessed by officials. Hillary Clinton said in response, "You have got to be kidding me." I mean, I don't. You could make the argument that her emails thing, I don't even want to call it a scandal, but yeah, it was a scandal of talking about government stuff. And honestly, from refreshing my memory on that, it's stuff that she definitely should have done on government servers, but most of the classified stuff was retroactively labeled as such. So sort of, that was sensitive, but it wasn't like clear this is classified. And so she did the wrong thing, but the reason that the investigation led to what it did, which was her being let off, was the fact that it wasn't even to the level of what we're seeing here. And they were so angry about emails being discussed in a private, email that should have been in government emails. And even Pete Hegseth himself. We'll get to Trump himself.
The people we rely on to do dangerous and difficult thing for us rely on one thing from us, that we will not reveal their identity and not be reckless with what the dangerous things they're doing for us. That's the national security implications of a private server that's unsecured. That's why we look at a guy like Snowden and say, he's not a hero, he's a traitor. He put lives at risk, and you can get people killed when you do that. Let me be clear, to quote the president. Hillary Clinton, if there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Correct.
For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them, which means that individual and the others associated with them have been passing around through unsecure networks information, sources, and methods of people on the ground, covers compromised in real time.
Yes.
This is a real deal, full-blown...
Yeah, Pete. Yeah.
If there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is.
Mishandling classified information is still a violation of the Espionage Act.
When you have the Clinton emails, on top of the fact that the sitting president of the United States admitted he had documents in his garage, or they didn't.
And then we cannot forget about Trump himself, who, again, I think you can make the argument that her scandal swayed the election for Trump.
Things came out today, those classified, the word classified. This was not just extreme carelessness with classified material, which is still totally disqualifying. This is calculated, deliberate, premeditated misconduct. The Secretary of State was extremely careless and negligent in handling our classified secrets. She lied about passing on classified information, right? In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the...
See, some people don't know where my Trump impression comes from because he talks a little differently now. This is the Trump impression. In my that's sort of like revving himself up.
Right? In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. She said she sent nothing more classified. A total lie. We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified. Put classified information in the reach of our enemies. Classified, confidential. They're so classified.
Okay, you get the point. And now I'm feeling like he's not going to be as fed up about his officials talking about this stuff. A guy named Joey Manarino, who's a Trump supporter, this was captioned by Ron Filipkowski, 5D chess, baby. He wrote, so this is his defense, right? If you believe for 1 minute that Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, and JD Vance randomly and accidentally added this most rabidly anti-Trump journalist to a national security group chat, you're definitely the mark. These are some of the most competent people competent people in the country, and you believe they would just screw up like this? Simply not possible. This is called media strategy, and Trump is famous for stuff like this. Oh, Joey, that's such a great thought. Thank you for sharing. What? They did this on purpose, is his argument. It's playing the media. Wow. Maybe if that's the case, maybe they are really smart, because I'm yet to find out what possibly the benefit of this could be. Share your thoughts in the comments. A lot more coming today, obviously.